All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT practice question series, where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, please let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Claire was given a Rice Krispie treat at school today. When she gets home, she asks her mom if she can eat the treat. Her mom tells her she must first eat all of her dinner. Once Claire eats her dinner, she gets the treat. The mom has done what? Now, what's happening here is one of the most basic strategies and most frequent strategies you're going to use as a technician. What do we know so far? We know Claire was given this treat at school. When she got home, she asked her mom if she could eat the treat. And then her mom says, you must first eat your dinner and then you can have the treat. And then once Claire ate the dinner, she got the treat. So the mom used this if then statement or a first then statement to do what? Well, she established a contingency. As a technician, you're going to be establishing contingencies all the time. Contingencies are a great way to get a behavior and then immediately reinforce that behavior. The mom gets Claire to eat the dinner, and then gets to reinforce with the treat. We're always trying to establish contingencies. If you do this, then this happens. Now, if we look at B, set up a bribe, what's the difference between a bribe and a contingency? With a bribe, because a lot of people are going to say, well, this is bribery, it's not. With a bribe, the reward comes before the behavior. So if Claire had been given the treat, eaten the treat, and then the mom tells her to eat her dinner, that's a bribe. Claire already got what she wanted. With the contingency, Claire's got to engage in the behavior first before she gets the treat. That's the main difference. C shaped the behavior. With shaping, we're looking at approximations and terminal behaviors. We're not necessarily looking at shaping here. And then they used a high P request sequence. With a high P request sequence, we're going to give high probability requests that are likely to occur, followed by that final low probability request that we want to see. That is not what happened here. Mom did not give a bunch of high probability requests. She just established that if then, first then contingency. If you eat your dinner, then you get your treat. The mom has done what? Established a contingency. Sasha struggles to store a bicycle correctly in a rack. Her neighbor shows her the final step of securing the lock first, then works back through the steps to guide Sasha through positioning the bike, aligning the wheels, and finally lifting the bike into the rack. After several practice sessions like this, Sasha can complete the entire sequence on her own. Which procedure is illustrated most in this example? So we have a procedure question, and with procedure questions, we want to think about how are we teaching, what strategy we're using, what are we doing? We know Sasha wants to store her bicycle in the rack. The neighbor shows her the final step of securing the lock first. So immediately when I read shows final step first, I'm thinking backwards chaining. Backwards chaining, that's exactly what we're doing. We're starting with the last step first and then working backwards through the rest of the steps. So then the neighbor shows Sasha how to position the bike, align the wheels, and lift the bike into the rack. So the neighbor starts with the final step and then works backwards through the steps. After several sessions, Sasha completes the sequence on her own. Given all that information, what procedure is illustrated most in this example? A, forward chaining. With forward chaining, we're going to start with that first step and then prompt the rest, and then teach the first and second, and then teach first, second, third. Here, we're looking at that last step first and working backwards. So that's much more similar to backwards chaining, where we start with that third step, and then we teach second and third, and then we teach first, second, third. But from the last step first, we go backwards. With total task chaining, we teach all steps all together. So when you read, the neighbor shows the final step first and works backwards through the rest of the steps, immediately we need to start thinking backwards chaining. Chaining is that simple. What step are you teaching first and what order are you going in? If you're starting with the last step and going backwards, you're clearly going to be engaging in B, backwards chaining. Try to predict the answer choices before you read the actual, or try to predict the answer before you read the actual answer choices. An RBT helps the client learn to make a simple fruit salad. First, the RBT demonstrates each step, selecting fruit, cutting it, and combining pieces, while the client watches. After seeing this demonstration, the client does the same thing. Which prompting strategy is most represented here? We have a prompting strategy question. And what do we know? We know the RBT is helping the client to make a fruit salad and demonstrating each step. Select fruit, cut it, combine it while the client watches. And then once the client sees it done, the client does the same thing. So when we have a scenario where we are demonstrating something and then the person we're demonstrating it to does it right after, what's happening? Well, we're modeling and the person is imitating. In this case, the RBT is demonstrating or modeling each step, then the client imitates. So what prompting strategy is represented here? A, forward chaining. Now be careful here, right? The RBT is going through steps and teaching in steps, but that's not what the question is asking about. The question wants to know about the prompting strategy. So forward chaining is not even considered here because it's not a prompting strategy. We're not talking about chaining, we're talking about prompting. That's why you've got to attack the question. B, modeling. Yes, it's what we predicted. The RBT demonstrates or models each step while the client watches. And then once they see that demonstration, they do the same thing. They imitate. That is the relationship. One models, the other imitates. C, physical prompting. There are no indications of physical prompting occurring here, so we're not going to pick C. And then D, graduated guidance is a type of physical prompting where we prompt as much as necessary and then fade immediately. Again, the only indication of prompting here is the model prompt where the RBT demonstrates the steps and then the client imitates. So we have to say what's most represented here as far as prompting goes is B, modeling. A parent reports that their child starts to scream every time they are asked to brush their teeth. After an assessment, the supervising behavior analyst tells you and the parent to prompt the child to say 5 more minutes instead of screaming when asked to brush their teeth. You are then to reinforce when the child says 5 more minutes. What strategy is most represented here? All right, we have another strategy question. What do we know? We know the parent is reporting that the child starts to scream when they are asked to brush their teeth. So when I'm reading that question, I'm like thinking to myself, okay, this is what we're going to solve. They're brushing their teeth and screaming. How are we going to fix this? After the assessment, the analyst tells you and the parent to prompt the child to say 5 more minutes instead of screaming. So now I'm thinking, well, we're teaching them to functionally communicate, and it might be some sort of differential reinforcement procedure because you are supposed to reinforce when the child says 5 more minutes. So we're clearly teaching some sort of functional communication and reinforcing when that occurs. So I've got a couple ideas. Let's look at our answer choices. Notice how we always attack the question first and then go to the answer choices. A, escape extinction. With escape extinction, we are preventing escape from a task. Well, the child isn't necessarily escaping the toothbrushing altogether, but we're not putting escape on extinction either. We're trying to teach them to ask for 5 more minutes in a stressful situation or an unlikely situation or an unwanted situation like this. So we're not necessarily putting escape on extinction. B, tangible extinction. With a tangible, you're giving something to somebody. That's the function. The function of the behavior is to get a tangible. And here we're not giving the child anything, and we're not preventing the child from getting a tangible. So tangible doesn't really apply here. C, functional communication training. Yes, we're clearly teaching the child to functionally communicate instead of screaming. 5 more minutes is much more functional instead of the screaming. And then D, negative reinforcement. Well, what are we adding? What are we reinforcing with? We're giving the child 5 more minutes. That's what the child is gaining by functionally communicating. So we're really positively reinforcing with the 5 more minutes. So the strategy most represented here is going to be C, functional communication training. Each time you go to the store with your daughter, you buy the apple cinnamon oatmeal. When you do this, your daughter asks what other flavors are oatmeal at the store, so you tell her and point to the boxes. Eventually, your daughter is able to select the apple cinnamon oatmeal on her own. What skill is your daughter demonstrating by selecting the apple cinnamon oatmeal? Now, skill question, and we're looking at the daughter specifically, selecting apple cinnamon oatmeal. We know you go to the store and you buy that type of oatmeal. When you do this, the daughter says what other flavors are there, and you point at the boxes. So let's say we have an apple box, a banana box, and a cinnamon box. You buy the apple box, and then you point out this is banana, this is cinnamon. Eventually, the daughter can select the apple cinnamon oatmeal on her own. So she has 3 stimuli, and she can pick the correct stimulus. What skill is that? A, functional communication. Well, we've covered this already in previous questions. The daughter isn't communicating anything here. She's just selecting the right stimulus out of a group. So A is not right. B, response differentiation. With response differentiation, that is related to what responses are occurring. So pointing versus waving is differentiation of responses. What we're dealing with here is selecting a certain stimulus out of a group of stimuli. And when we're able to do that, that means we're discriminating between the different stimuli. So the skill the daughter is demonstrating by selecting the right stimulus out of the group is going to be C, stimulus discrimination. Overcorrection is just a punishment procedure that you don't necessarily need to know for your technician exam. The daughter selecting the right oatmeal out of a group is going to be stimulus discrimination. Thanks for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.